My awakening was about looking inside of me and realizing my true power while feeling the connection with other realms beyond my so called reality. In this podcast, I go around the world interviewing and sharing unique awakening experiences of different people such as you and me. Is humanity part of the simulation?
That's a deep one.
Well, great to have you here, Grace. Thank you so much for being with us today on this episode of Consciousness
Thank
Podcast.
you too for inviting me, Diego. I've been looking forward to seeing you and meeting you again soon.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
we'll meet again soon because we met a few months ago in October 2023 in Sedona, Arizona, where we were all the group, the initiatic trip that we did there with Matias De Stefano. We were very surprised by your energy, your fitness, climbing all these mountains all day long, many days in a row, all these steep paths that we had to do, and we were surprised by your healthiness, your fitness, and when we start talking to you, even your experience, your wisdom in life, and that's why I wanted to have you today on this podcast, because I think you have so much wisdom to share and really very interesting life experience that you will share
When
with
you're
us today.
surrounded by the young people, energetic people, and same minded consciousness, you can't help but have that strength, the power, and the desire to keep up the pace. And yeah, you said it's really a wonderful
Yeah.
experience for all of us. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was a great trip, one we will never forget.
Hmm.
All the things that happened, and it happens to me. I always say the same thing when I'm on those trips. It's like my antenna, like with the universe, with
Yeah.
whatever, with the quantum field, is like very sharp. It's but when I come back, it's sometimes I feel like is my antenna still on?
That will become
It's
it will
not
become
at the same
stronger and
level.
stronger. And I've noticed that even with myself. I've been in the path for about 49 years. And yet, after all these gatherings with Matthias, I, I just am surprised at what I can sense and what I can feel um, when there are things that are confronting me that are not to my liking. So that to me is a wonderful realization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one great thing that you did is that you documented, like you wrote multiple books. This is one of them that you kindly give me as a gift. My Egypt story with Matias Stefano and how it resonated with my life stories. But you wrote multiple books and you were able to document that and share it. So you're already doing that. You're already sharing your experiences. That's amazing. How's that book received? Within your
Well,
community, or
actually, I have not even advertised it. All I did was I just placed it in
oh,
Amazon, and only our group are the
hmm.
ones that know about it, and just my
Okay, okay, right,
short circle friends. Yeah, and
yeah, yeah,
every time I write books, it's always just to record my thoughts. And if it's going to be printed,
right,
and if somebody wants it and wants to read it, it's the only time I have ideas of having it published. But all the three books that I've written were just for my own consumption. And whoever gets hold of that book, that's the only thing. And my only desire is for them to get something out of the book or out of the experiences I've written. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, amazing experiences, and now lately, I don't know if it was the last one, but at least the last one that I know that you've been involved with is, and maybe you can share a little bit about that. Is you went to Batanos? Is
Yes.
the place? Is the name of the place? Uh, Okay. So what was that trip about? Because I understand you were
Yeah,
on a
we
mission.
were the first three crystal walkers that started the 20 nodes of the icosahedron. That is part of the 32 nodes that Matthias had to accomplish um, to complete the 12 dodecahedron and the 20 icosahedron. These are the 32 portals of Earth that needs to be reactivated preparatory for the age of Aquarius for the next 2,500 years, which was what we did when he closed the last 2,500 years of age of Leo. And last February 22, 2022 was the um, onset or the start of the next 2,500 years of age of Aquarius. That's the polarity. Okay, so of Leo, now
Right.
age of Aquarius. Yeah, and those. Yeah, go ahead.
So for those that don't, no, I was just gonna say for those that don't know necessarily what nodes mean, correct me if I'm wrong. We're talking about specific planet locations in Earth,
Yeah.
on the planet Earth, specific locations where basically the icosahedron and dodecahedron, these are energetic grids that surround our planet, and when the grid cross one another between each one, I mean, they cross it. Just if you would just put a laser beam uh, up vertical towards the earth, that would be the specific location that has specific energy, and that's what you call the portals,
Yes,
right?
they are the structural intersections, if you'd like to combine those two words to signify
Yeah.
the structure of the Earth's energetic field. And that's why it's in far-flung areas of the world. And the crystals that was activated and which Matthias brought to Antarctica in February 2017. And it has been energized since then and was only the first 12, which was the dodecahedron, were distributed last February 2022 when we were in Egypt. No, I'm sorry, in Argentina. In Argentina, that was the first time that the crystals were anchored on these structural intersections of our electromagnetic field. And the purpose is to bring about harmony, happiness, and what's the third, John? Harmony, happiness, and there's another. No. There's another one.
Prosperity, maybe.
He'll look into it. I always remember I
Okay.
always forget the
Okay,
third.
no worries.
Anyway.
Okay, but if we go back to that adventure, that mission, you were holding these crystals. Those crystals, what's the story with those crystals? What's the history of those crystals? Where
The
did they came
crystals, I
from?
don't know where Matthias got them, but inside those crystals, do you have a picture? Can you bring it? Show it. Is there? Can we do a screen sharing so you can see the crystals?
Yeah. Not screen sharing, no, but you can place the picture there in the camera if you want.
There we brought actually 4 crystals. Okay, 2 flowers of life.
Yeah.
To signify external and the internal world. And then the third was the Merkaba. So we had 3 crystals and we had a prism, which inside there was how shall we say, a diagram of our DNA, Earth's DNA. So these crystals are considered seeds that's supposed to, once we anchor them on water, would create a change in frequency on Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. and these crystals, if I understand correctly, they have been somehow prepared beforehand, before your trip. They has been somehow energized, or by
By
whom, when?
Matias
Do you remember
with
that? Do you know that?
72 Yosoy
Uh,
members. They went to Antarctica. He
uh,
has those clips in YouTube. Okay, you will see them, and the
uh,
story was fabulous because they were even stranded, and that they had to. There was a certain day that they're supposed to anchor them in Antarctica, and there was no plane available. They had to charter a flight, and then the plane got stranded because of the so much ice that snowfall that was occurring. And yeah, it was a fabulous story.
mm,
Then I don't know if he brought them back to Argentina, but he said these crystals have been waiting for the anchoring the year 2023 when we went to Argentina. So the 12
mm.
dodecahedron and 2024 is the icosahedron. So this year, all the 32 nodes will be complete. So we already did
Right.
the first five, March, the second five
Mm,
was summer solstice, and then the third and the fourth. That will be 20 nodes. Yeah.
okay. You're going on another one of those trip, or you're just
Because
that one
there's so
is
many who would want to
for
go,
now? That
and it's based on ruffles,
right.
according to yeah, according
It's a
to
ruffle.
Matias,
Yeah,
yeah,
I heard.
according to
Yeah,
foundation.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for those, right. So for those that, again, we're talking a lot
Those
about
are crystals.
Matthias, and so I may well explain. Those are the crystals that Matthias
Yeah.
were
Okay.
energizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Matthias, basically, his life is just an entire mission, a planetary mission, and he's always on a plane, traveling one place to another in the planet, uh, by the guidance of his guides and other entities that are taking care and monitoring the evolution
Mm-hmm.
of our planet. Matthias, who is an indigo child and has a channel very open to connect with other planes. He's the one. I mean, not probably he's not the only one. There are others that are doing that type of work too. But that's the one that we're talking about. He is actually always on a mission, on an adventure, and trying to work the energies in different parts of the planet as he is guided to. Because as he says, and many of people that are in the spiritual world um, agree and are being hearing the same thing. We are in a
Mm-hmm.
transition period from, as you were saying before, we are entering the Aquarius era, which is really, it has a lot of significance in terms of the evolution of the planet and our species, humanity. So it's a really, I mean, it's mind blowing. It's a mind blowing experience, a mind blowing story, all of it. And it's, we've been very fortunate to witness that firsthand with Matthias channeling and channeling different entities, and how he approached life, and his wisdom, which is really amazing. And through that path, I've also been fortunate enough to meet other people that have many capabilities and are very connected as well. And because before that, I just didn't know anybody with that type of skills, at least firsthand. And now I see, oh my God, there's so many people that has this information, has been given this information, and some of them have the courage to share it. Some of them are still trying to understand what the hell is happening to them, because it's a lot of information in many cases. Um, and that's why I wanted to do the podcast, because I wanted to interview people that is receiving this type of information and is connected with this other realm. For me, it's fascinating. So, what is your experience with that? I mean, because how did you started to understand that there's much more in reality than what we can see and touch with. We can see with your eyes and touch with our hands,
Well,
or feel with
I
our
got
senses.
introduced to this philosophy, if you want to call it philosophy, but with Matthias, he says it's just a pure, you have to experience it for you to be able to claim what it is, right? It's all experiential. That's why it's different facets of truth. But 49 years ago, I met a master and a spiritual guru who initiated me to the I am path. And during COVID, when we were all stranded in our homes, I turned on the YouTube and Matthias said something that really intrigued me. He said, I remember my past lives before I was born. And I'm a believer of reincarnation because of my experience with my guru, and that made me follow him in initiation. His episodes, at that time, there were only 12 episodes in Gaia. And just listening and watching his first episode brought me to the memories, the 49 years of my exposure to my guru, because everything that he was saying were all said by my guru. Plus, he added more information, just like the geometric solids, the electromagnetic force of the earth, etc. And so I followed these transmissions and I realized, my God, I thought I learned so much from my guru, but this guy, a 33-year-old guy, is expounding and adding more information and linking everything that I learned, because I knew the laws of the seven laws, I knew the chakras and all of that. But the way Matthias presented it was, he was connecting. And that's what he just said just about 2 days ago when I was watching one of his episodes, that he is his mission is to create the network. And to me, that is what amazed me most in his teachings, how he's able to connect the 12 zodiac signs, the four, the planetary consciousness of environmental, the solstice, spring, the four aspects of time, which is transcendence, um, um, expression, all the four. And then he also connected our biological connection to the planets. And I was really amazed. Oh my God, it's just really one web. And to be able to navigate your life in a more easier way, if you're able to link each of those facets, it becomes easier for you to understand everything that's happening in your life. And that's what amazed me most. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're talking about your first
Yeah.
guru. Is that a guru from the
Well,
Philippines, where
yes,
you're
she
from?
was born in the Philippines. About 10 years old, she moved to the U.S. But she's half Filipino, half not half. She's a mix of French, Filipino, and Chinese.
Yeah.
And so,
And how old were you when you started
I was
learning from her,
28.
from that guru?
But I was 12 years old. I was already asking my mom and my dad questions that they could not answer. I said, why does God play favorites? And then my mom would say, why are you asking us those things? And then I said, because I see that God plays favorites. I have a playmate who has only one leg. And she comes from a very poor family. And then I would ask that. I was bred in a Dominican school. I studied there. And they also cannot answer my question rationally. They would always say, just believe. You have very little faith. You just have to believe in God's wisdom. And that didn't sit well with me. And when I was 28, my sister told me, why don't you go into this seminar? I think she will be able to answer all your questions. And the moment I stepped into the seminar, she was writing on the board, God does not play favorites. So I sat down and I
Right.
followed her for 20 years. And yeah,
And
go ahead.
and
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
that's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you, how was the? I mean, what were you doing for your life? You know, in terms of maybe you had a job, like you said, you started learning from her when you were around 20. So maybe you were studying, you were having a job. A little bit of your life story before really engaging or learning all these
I was
other.
already married.
Uh,
I started when I was 28, not 20, 28. And yeah, I had my
20.
three sons
Yeah.
already. I was working for the family business,
Okay.
and yeah, I was married then, but then I got separated after 20 years of marriage, and that's when I started.
Hmm.
I was already applying the principles that I was learning from my guru. But then when I got separated, that's when I used all the principles for all the areas of my life, most especially on the prosperity side, because now I have to earn my keeps. Yeah.
Right. And I know you told me you've done very well on the business side of things. You're a
Yeah,
businesswoman yourself, and and you told me that that is part of applying those
definitely.
principles, right?
I would swear by all of them. That's what triggered me into writing the book. Because when I was reading
Mm,
the blog of Matthias, they were all talking about the principles of the mind, principles of manifestation. And I said, these are the ones that I have used, but it has to be brought down to practical application. So, and and I had this
mm,
urge that for every blog that he wrote, I'd like to write something side by side on how I use those principles, so that by sharing my
mm.
experience, people can pick up some, because those principles, when applied, would have to be personalized. It can be that, like, it says like
Yeah.
1 plus 1, everybody can use 1 plus 1. But when you use it in, let's say, for cooking food, or adding numbers in your book of accounts, then these are different applications. And once you apply the principles, you just don't give up when you don't get the effects immediately, because they do work. And that's what I wanted to show in that book. I wanted to show that if you apply the principles that Matthias is sharing, just don't give up, because sometimes it's your application that's released. Because I have used it in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go let's just put a stop here 1 second. I just want to do one change in your mic, because you with your hands, you're moving the hands and you're hitting the mic. Maybe is your IT guy, maybe just
Okay.
put it more up, a little bit more
Yeah, I keep on
more
moving my
up in the
hands. I
scarf.
know.
Not,
Yeah.
no, and that's fine. Just put it a little bit more up so it
Okay.
just doesn't hit you. Okay. Okay.
Makes sense.
Great.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. All right. So, so you're talking about these principles, and I'm wondering what those principles really are, and basically how different you must live your life by following those principles than how you live your life
Oh,
before.
it's 180-degree turn. Because um, the way we're programmed by the world, and the way our civilization, the emphasis is always the external world, and the business world love, relationships, success, and health are all external based. But knowing the principles of the mind and focusing on the very first principle, which Matthias also expounds, that all the 7 laws are actually just one law, is the law of the mind, the law of mentalism. Okay. By grounding yourself in that principle, all else will just fall into place. Because that is the very source, the very foundation of the power of manifestation. Whether it's money that you're manifesting, whether it's love, health, and success, you have to be grounded on the reality of who you are. What are you made up of? What are your powers? Because once you know who you are, what are the powers that go with it? And by delving into that, the rest of the laws will just be peripheral tools. And how?
Peripheral,
Yes,
and they will
yes,
flow in.
definitely. They're all interwoven. But I was just reading in one of the chat rooms that was sent, and I've not read her book, but it's called the Rainbow Chronicles. And she started talking this way too, that abundance is your very essence. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good book. Yeah, I don't know who wrote it, but it's in one of the chat rooms of the Yosoi.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I want to go into the yo soy or the I am concept. But before I go into that, just want to double click still on these principles. So what you're saying is that there's one aspect of those principles, which is, I don't know if I understood correctly, connecting with the mind,
Mm-hmm.
the concept of the mind. And when you do that, then whatever the principles are will just start being fall into place. So first of all, what does really mean connected, and how do you connect with the mind?
You are the mind.
You are the mind. But so in your experience, what did you do differently from before you met your guru to when you met your guru in terms of connecting with the mind, or understanding that you're the mind, or anchoring your mind?
Well, it totally removed my concept that that there is a higher realm outside of you. Because if all is mine, if that is the source, if that is what we call God or universe or the void, if that is you, if that is your existential reality, then there is no division between your internal and your external world. And the moment you're able to really accept that, not only in your conscious mind, but also in your subconscious mind, you will definitely act towards the manifestation of the first 2 aspects of your mind. What do I mean by that? When you know what you want in your life, which is your mental section of your consciousness, and you feel it in your emotional level, that what you want in your mind you will have, you will definitely be led to act towards where you want to go and what you want to achieve. And that's what Matthias talks about, the coherence of the trinity of your mind. So that realization, you have to be grounded on that principle. All else will follow. The law of cause and effect, the law of rhythm, the law of polarity, it will all fall into place, as I said earlier. Because if you don't know who you are, and you don't, then wouldn't know what your powers are. So we will always be
Hmm.
relying on an
And
external force to give what we want from life.
interesting, very interesting. Basically, you need to anchor that aspect that you are the mind, and as a result, you're the creator of everything that happens to you
Mm-hmm.
and everything that exists. And once you understand that, it's easier to manifest because you are the
Mm-hmm.
one creating everything. So one thing, yeah. So one thing is understanding it. Another
Yes.
thing is integrating it. That's hard probably for some people that are
Mm-hmm.
having a bad time, a crisis, life crisis, or but that's it. I mean, that's the goal. I guess I didn't um, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it like that before, but in my case personally, but I understand it more now. Understand it more now for maybe a couple of years, and it has been. I don't know. Somehow I'm thinking. Somehow I've been able to manifest things in my life. I was just thinking about that today, and I'm looking to my left side because there's I'm on the this is happening. I just told you before we started. This is happening in the meeting room of my agency, and on the meeting room I put a big phrase on the wall that says that I saw it on the Secret
Mm-hmm.
documentary.
Ron
One that
Park.
that
Yeah.
was published, a long time ago. It says you don't have to see the whole staircase; just
Okay.
take the first step. And uh, and it's you believing that it's in a way it's you believing that you can manifest or you can create whatever you have in your mind. And I was able to do that a lot of times before even understanding the law of manifestation or before reading The Secret. And when I read The Secret, when I watched The Secret, the documentary, um, kind of started to understand, okay, this is how it works. What I was doing
Mm-hmm.
by accident, really. But now I got it to another level, which is what you were sharing. Now I got it to another level. Is
Mm-hmm.
I am the mind, which is like super crazy, right? I mean, it's
I guess so.
for our world,
Yeah.
for many people, it's super crazy. Like we're all two lunatics talking about that we create everything. But I've been hearing that from a lot of people, and one that I've been following a lot is also
Yes.
Bashar. Do you know
Yes.
Daryl
Yes.
Anka? I think is the name. That he
Mm-hmm.
channels Bashar, which is an ET, and he has been having that relationship with that ET since he's a child, or no, probably no, since child, no, since he started
Yeah.
to learn channeling when he was an adult, and then he understood that he packed that on this life to be able to share the Bashar's wisdom to
Mm-hmm.
society, to humans. Um, and he talks about that exactly. And so I'm listening and I'm hearing many different channels from different sources that are talking about that we are the mind, which is fascinating and so game changer, as you were saying. So what are the, just to name a few, what are the things that you were able to manifest that you kind of sit down and really try to focus on meditating? Just give me a
Well,
few
meditation is
examples.
just actually increasing your energy for manifestation. But the most important thing, as I said, is we bring your what you just sort of understood now. Bring it one notch higher. By when you said I am the mind, um, put it one notch higher. You are the mind of the entire creation. Okay, there is a big difference that I am the mind, and there
Mm,
seems to be a creation that's still outside of you. Bring it one notch higher. You are that creator. You are that what everybody calls the universe, God, energy, the void, even the void. I was listening to Matthias this morning. I've never heard that. I've never saw that talk before, and I was crying because he was asked, do you have any fear? He said. The ones interviewing him said, yeah, I have only two. He said. Then he said, I have a fear of being lonely. Oh, then he corrected it. Oh, I want to be always alone. In fact, I love being alone. That's not the loneliness I'm talking about, but it's the loneliness of having experienced the void. Oh my God, I was literally having tears. The tears were coming down my cheeks because this guy has gone through the realization of who God is. For him to say that his fear of going through the void is there's nobody around except himself. And he said, it's scary.
Hi, if you got this far, I hope you really like the content. If that's the case, you would do us a huge favor if you hit that like button on the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This will help the YouTube algorithm take notice of our account and the videos that we post. And as a result, more people like you will be able to get access to these great interviews and this great wisdom from these great people that we like to talk to. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is scary. And you know, there's one member of that trip, I'm not gonna say the name of that Sedona trip, that I was talking with after the trip, and that after that trip he started experiencing the fact that he was God, that he was a creator,
okay,
that he was the mind, and in
yeah.
in those trippy feelings, he started to grasp or feel actually or enter into that feeling of the void. I don't know in which level, but the person told me it was so scary because he, up to a point that he didn't even wanted to he didn't want to feel those things. He didn't want to be that connected or whatever, if that's the term. He just no. He said no. I want to feel that there's someone else that is taking care of me.
I guess that's yeah.
Because it was really
But
scary.
you know,
Yeah.
that realization of Matia, of not realization, that discussion, that what he shared to me reinforced my belief that whatever it is he's sharing, because it is actually a repeat of what I learned from my guru, but as I said earlier, he expounded it, and again reinforced my belief that this guy is on a mission that will uplift the entire humanity. And that's the one that gives me also the impetus to really go out of my way to help him. Because that is the only thing that will create not peace, as he would always say, but harmony in the world. Now I remember the third is freedom. It's freedom, harmony, and
we always miss one.
I think I'm supposed to remember only two.
Let's not try it again.
This is fun. I'm supposed to remember only two every time I remember try to talk about the three. Yeah.
You know what, Grace? This is for the first time. I think I'm understanding the connection of the term "I am," yo soy, because this term was something that it has been that it has, I don't know if am I hearing an echo?
No.
Do you hear an echo?
Okay.
No?
Yeah.
It's just me? Okay. All right. So for the first time, this is I'm connecting the I am, the yo soy term, with what we were talking about being the mind. I guess that's exactly why that term is so important, or it has so much significance in the spiritual world, because you are everything, and but I didn't understand it from that we are the mind. I didn't connect it with that. This is the first time I'm connecting it, which is very interesting. I wonder if that's the case, or am I just interpreting wrong? But this is a term that before Matthias, it has been in the spiritual world for a long time. That also I learned afterwards. Well, you told me that your guru was your guru when you were 28, started to talking to you about that, your first guru. So can you tell me a little bit about do you know about the origins of the I am, or do you know what does the I am? I guess you just kind of touch on that, but what do you know about the I am, or what's the importance of the I am for you?
Well, it's everything. Because the I am is actually your conscious mind is the I, and the M is your emotional level. And the moment you connect the two, it becomes a verb. And once it becomes a verb, that means there's an action that will follow. So the realization of who you are, what are you made up of? What stuff are you made up of? And what powers go with that? Would eventually give you the necessary tools to bring forth whatever it is you want to achieve in your life. I'll give you an example. You asked for that earlier. I started with small manifestations and with those principles. And then when I got separated, I was forced to come up with something to sustain my own lifestyle. Now that I don't have a husband to support me, because I was just a just wife that stays at home and just working for the family business. Other than that, I was supported all the way financially. And suddenly I was thrown out into the sea and not knowing what to do with my life. But I was lucky in the sense that my guru was there, and she sort of, just by knowing she was there, gave me the strength to do whatever it is that I want to do. And this is what's so nice about life. Just stay on the positive, have good thoughts, have good feelings. Even if you don't know yet what to do, it will be the universe that will bring it to you. And that's how my life started. My own business started. You know, when I was still married, I was building our house, constructing our house. But then that's when I realized, oh, I love watching construction. I love watching these workers constructing. And during the time, I was asking my husband, can you give me capital so I can just put up one house and go build and sell? And that's how I started. But then when we got separated, I had nothing. I had zero. He just gave me the house. And so I started again doing what I think I wanted to do. I didn't have any capital. And my guru guided me, said, okay, we just borrow from the bank, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So I started in construction. Then I got bankrupt from that process. Okay. I earned money, but I got bankrupt. So I started again. And what's using the powers of manifestation and knowing that the creator is within me. A guy offered me a property worth 16 million pesos at the time. I only have, yes,
Philippine
that's
pesos.
about $3 million. I only had 100,000 pesos, 150, sorry. I bought the property. I told him, I'd like to buy the property, but I'd like to pay it in tranches. And he said, how much are you going to pay? Well, 150, but then my son came from the US and said, how much money do you have? 150. Okay, let's put it together. It's 300,000. And I said, and it's, remember, I'm buying 60 million and I'm offering 300,000. said, how are you going to pay the
Mhm.
rest? I said, give me 6 months, or I'll give you 4 million, and in 12 months, I'll give you the full payment of 12. I didn't know where I was going to get the money. I don't have any collateral. I don't know
Wow.
any bank that would, any connections in bank. And people would say, wow, you're a risk taker. No, I said, there's no risk. Why is there no risk? You're buying this, you gave all your money of 150 and your son's money of 150, and you don't know where you're going to get the money? Yeah, I know where I'm going to get the money, from my source within, from my God within. All I have to do is know what I want to do, feel that I'm going to have it, that I can do it, and then walk towards that dream. Do everything in your power towards where you want to go. In 12 months, I was able to pay the property, and that property
Wow.
became the seed that made me develop many more properties that has given me revenues of about $90 million from that
Mm. Wow.
150,000.
Wow. Beautiful story. Wow. The power of
Yeah,
manifestation right
but
there.
you're not devoid
Wow.
of negatives. You're not going to be, in fact, the negatives
No.
will seem to be increasing and multiplying. And I said, what's happening? But you see, I had one more bankruptcy after that, but every bankruptcy is always just a step backwards so I could make a giant leap. That's why I have learned to
Mm.
cope with the negatives in my life as a stepping stone towards a bigger thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
No,
amazing. That's amazing, Grace. And congratulations for believing so
not
much in
me.
yourself and your
It is
power
not me
within.
at all.
Wow.
It's the
That's
source, the
inspiring.
void. Yeah. I don't know why they call it the void, because it's
Yeah.
not the void, it's everything. But I guess everything and nothing has to come together. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about another
Yeah.
totally different topic, which is Egypt. How many times have you been
Yeah,
to
just
Egypt?
that
Just
one
one time?
time. But I've been there
Okay.
thousands of years ago because I was buried alive in Egypt.
Oh,
But in this present life, just once.
okay. So I was not expecting that. So let's touch on that. So what are you talking about? What do you mean you've been buried
Well,
alive in Egypt at one time,
the
at
first
one
time I met
lifetime?
my guru, that's the first thing she told me. I don't even, we've not even had many exchange of words. She saw me, I saw her, and then she said, don't you remember me? And I said, I looked at her, I said, no. And at that time, I didn't know anything about reincarnation. Then she said, you were buried alive in Egypt with me. And, at the time, oh, okay, must be fun. Then,
Good thing
I
you
mean,
don't remember.
but this is what's, when she told me that, I remembered certain events in my present life where I went
Hmm.
to a museum, an exhibit of Tutankhamun's artifacts. It was brought to the Philippines on a world tour.
Hmm.
When I entered one of the rooms and there was a sarcophagus, I started to asphyxiate. I couldn't breathe. And I went out of the room not knowing
Hmm.
anything. I said, oh my God, this is a bad room. There's bad air and all of that. I didn't attribute anything to it. And plus, not only that, as a young kid, I grew up having asthma attacks. Every time I would lie
Hmm.
down flat on my back, I can't breathe. And they would call it asthma.
Hmm.
So I said, oh
Wow.
my God, maybe those are the traumatic experiences in my subconscious mind that I never knew about until my guru told me about it. Yeah.
Wow. And did she tell you why you were buried
Um,
alive?
she didn't tell me.
You were buried
No,
alive
she didn't
on
tell me.
purpose or what?
But when I started, and this is the book, right? When I started this book,
Okay.
my friend
Mm,
from our group told me, "Oh, she already printed some of her contemplations in one of the books." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, I know. I think she gave me one." And then I got the book. This just about 2 years ago. And for the first time, she gave it to me, but it didn't register. What she wrote there was, "When I see you, I see my Egypt." And then she placed there love, priestess, and Pharaoh. And so now I realized that why was I buried alive? And she said I was buried alive with her. Because there is a tradition that if you serve in the court of the Pharaoh, when the Pharaoh dies, you die with the Pharaoh because you know
mm,
all the secrets.
mm,
So
mm,
that's when I realized, and I've always felt when she was talking about the one God, and she gave me all these papyrus with Akhenaten. I
mm,
knew she's really the reincarnation of
mm.
Akhenaten. Akhenaten, yeah, because
Wow.
when she had
Yeah.
that papyrus in our one of our meditation, she knelt down and she started
Mm,
to cry. And somebody told me, a friend of
mm,
ours, when they went to Egypt with her, before she goes, before the tourist guide would say, "This is the tomb of Akhenaten," she doesn't want to go in. She would say, "No, I don't want to go." And then
mm,
the tourist guide would say, "This is the tomb of Akhenaten." So that those are some
mm.
validations of what we thought who she was. So yeah, all of
Yeah.
that just fell into place. Yeah.
Wow. And what that Egypt trip that you did? It was I think
February
February
22,
2022.
2022.
Was it?
Yes. And
Yeah. So
I
no, no.
wrote
Yeah. Go ahead.
the
What
foundation. I said,
was your experience?
I'm a little afraid to go to Egypt and climb the king's chamber because I had a traumatic experience in the past. And then Maria,
Mm.
De Leon, wrote me and said, "Don't worry, when you go to Egypt, you will be healed." Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Maria, I told you, Maria Leon, which it
Yes.
was also on the
Yes.
Sedona trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
She receives that information. I believe. Yeah. Also
Yeah.
another person that is very connected. Yeah.
She's a nice person. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you were healed.
What was
Were
I?
you healed?
What? Sorry. Oh yeah,
Were you
definitely.
healed from that
The moment,
claustrophobic?
but this
Yeah.
is what happened.
Fear. Okay.
We were supposed to go in at 3 a.m. in the morning, and then chilly night and lighted pyramid against the backdrop of dark skies. It's really surreal, no? Then when we were starting to climb the towards the king's chamber, we were instructed, don't stop, just keep on walking, keep on climbing. And in the middle of our climb, the line stopped. And so it stopped for about 15 minutes. And I tried to be so calm because I was with everybody else there. And then after 15 minutes, I said, "Hey, please tell the guards downstairs, please do a, how do you call this, passing around." But the line stopped. The door might have been
Yeah.
closed upstairs or closed downstairs. So I was somehow recalling the closing of the doors. And then I said, then
Ah.
nobody was moving. And with a little panic mode, I said, we are losing oxygen because there are no windows here, there's nothing, and we're all exhaling carbon dioxide. And that's when another Filipina, I had two persons ahead of me, gave me her water and said, no, I'm fine. And then that's when the line stopped. Later on, Maria told us why the line stopped. Because when she entered, she was the first one. She couldn't find Matthias inside. I said, there are no windows, there are no doors. Where is Matthias? And then she learned. Then that's when, after 15 minutes, Matthias was lying inside the sarcophagus.
Yeah,
So,
the tomb. Yeah, in the King's Chamber's tomb. Yeah, I saw a picture of that, and I hear that that is very powerful because the tomb is it was built in a way and designed that if you do specific harmonies in the tomb, you really connect with your frequency gets to a certain level that you can
mhm.
really connect with divinity. So yeah, yeah,
Have you gone
that's
to
why it
the
was
King's
there.
Chamber? Not yet?
No, I haven't been to Egypt. I'm actually gonna be going in a few months, in a couple of months. I'm gonna be going for the first time with Patricia Domingos.
Not with
That was
Matthias?
in
I
our
say,
trip as well. No, no,
Matthias might
no,
go,
no, no,
because
no.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. No, I know, but this happened with Patricia, and also I was feeling I don't
Okay.
know, I was feeling it to go
Yeah.
with her, and there's a
Yeah.
group of
Okay.
30, 40 people, and she kind of does the same work as Matthias, so and what I wanted to do is for sure I wanted to go when I walked to Egypt. I didn't want to go just for the touristic part of it. I just really want to
Mm,
connect with that energy. At the same time, I'm also kind of how do you say it's not scary, but just want to be careful about. I know there's a lot of energy there, and there's a lot of different
yes.
type of
Yes.
energies, and so
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure that when I leave Egypt, I'm still on
Yeah,
my
I know
right
you're
mind
conscious that will
and not
always
go
protect
cuckoo.
you. You'll be protected. But once you go inside
Yeah.
the King's Chamber, it's an entirely different world. And strange because
Mm.
when I first entered, Matthias somehow knew what I needed. He pointed me to sit right in front of the sarcophagus. Can you imagine that? Yeah, it was, and everything was really something you will never forget. Yeah, with this chanting and with this,
Yeah.
it's you'd think you'd be not in this world, by the pyramid. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Amazing. And you had a certain connection with
Oh
Dendera
yeah,
Temple as well, right? I think I
yes,
read on your book,
yes.
the Dendera Temple. So can you talk a little bit? What did you feel? Why
Okay,
Dendera Temple? Do you know?
there are two reincarnations that my guru told me I had, just two. She said,
Mm,
you were buried with me alive in Egypt, and you were an astrologer in the Aztec religion. When I met her, I didn't know anything
mm,
about astrology. And so I started, when she told me
mm,
that, I started reading astrological books, and I took just maybe a 2 3 hour seminar from an astrologer who came to the Philippines. Other than that, everything's self-learning. And I'm able to,
mm,
the calculation of the chart, I can't do it myself because I'm not that tech savvy. But somehow, when I look at the chart, I see even reincarnations. And I've read a lot of people. I've read two of our presidents in the country. And the things that I have said have
mm,
come to pass. Now, I don't usually
mm,
say or share the dire things that I see because you can,
mm.
but because I don't
Yeah.
want it to be a self prophesying information that might bring them to
Yeah.
not nice so nice things. But
Yeah.
that's why I'm going with Matthias to Mexico. the Yucatan Peninsula in September. Yeah, because I want to close the gap. Egypt, Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds great. So back to the Dendera temple. Why
Because
you're
that's
connected with that?
the Dendera temple showed the 12
Yeah.
zodiac signs in its ceiling
Ah,
before any organized religion appeared in the civilized world and even in ancient
I
civilization.
didn't know that.
All the 12 zodiac signs are there.
Ah,
All it looks like it's newly painted, light blue. Yeah.
yeah.
And so to
And your
yeah,
past life as an
yeah,
astrologer
yeah. I
connected you
really
with it.
felt so connected with that
Beautiful.
temple. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, great. We're reaching the end of the episode. I want to ask you if there's something else that you want to share with the audience that we didn't touch on. Is there anything else that you want to?
Well, I think that we're all on the same path, although our ways are parallel. Um, what I'd like to share is what I've experienced in practicing the principles that Matthias is teaching. As I said earlier, even if you think it's not working, just continue because it's just the application that are sometimes not you are remiss in. So, but before you go into all those principles, hinge yourself to the very core of why you can manifest anything in your life. Here I am. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful said. And thanks so much for sharing so much wisdom and your life story, which is really, really interesting and inspiring. And that's what's this conversation was about, to understand your unique life experience, your unique awakening. And so thank you for that,
You're most
Grace. Thank you
welcome. And
for
I
being with me
really
today.
look forward to your expansion of what you're doing because we need more people like you because the world needs this kind of knowledge to bring harmony, freedom, and happiness. I got it. I have to look at John. Yeah, he's my
John
prompter.
got it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right.
More power.
Thank you, Grace.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. All right. So it was beautiful.